Next up, this one has got to be one of the most consistent for the average person, which is they're just not consistent enough. They miss enough workouts, enough weeks. They're consistent for 3 months, and they're not consistent for 3 months. And they expect when they finally get back on it for 3 days, 3 weeks or 4 weeks, like, why isn't this working? It's like, stick to it.
This is for sure the number one out of all of them.
Yeah.
Because, we think that we put all this weight on, or we lose all this muscle because we don't train for an extended period of time. And then we expect like you do one hard month of consistency that like it all is fixed.
Yeah.
Like it's
why isn't this working?
It's such a, building muscle is such a slow process, and then losing body fat and still holding on to muscle, right? So simultaneously changing your body composition is a very, very slow process and requires consistency for extended periods of time to see visual change. Now, granted, within weeks, or even a week, there are changes that are happening. But to see it visually, especially on yourself, who is looking at yourself and judging yourself at least once or twice or 3 times a day, it's very, very difficult to see visual change without an extended period of time where you're consistent. And so I would say this is the number one mistake that people make right here is, thinking that, oh man, but I've been really consistent. Like, have you really?
It's easily the most common. I mean, if you looked at the average person's workout history, it usually looks like I worked out consistently for 3 months here, and then I didn't for 6 months, and then, there was that year that I was consistent, and then I stopped for 2 years. You're better off working out less, but just doing it more consistently than you are doing it for 2 months and then stopping for 6 months.
Well, this is why I love that we advocate for the full body routine, because in my experience, a very small percentage of my clientele ever adopted a routine and then was consistent for months or years on after that. Then what would happen is most of them would have a streak, for a few weeks or a few months, and then something happens and they get back on, and then that happens again. And so if you're going to kind of have this off and on when life happens, which is realistic and understandable because we all have other priorities besides going to the gym and lifting weights, then doing a routine that requires you actually only one time in the gym to actually get your entire body addressed, I think is a superior way to work out for most people. Aside from what all the other studies say as far as the benefits of it, I think that in itself is the reason why
that makes it. That's 100%. I agree with you. In fact, I would say that that's the biggest, most beneficial reason for full body workouts. I'd say this: like if consistency is your issue, start with something you can maintain, work your full body, and then start there. And don't add anything until what you're doing has become a habit, until what you're doing has become second nature. Then add. Don't add just because you feel motivated. Otherwise, you'll set yourself up for failure, and then you end up in this kind of inconsistent model of exercise.